Hey guys, it's Cameron. So I was initially going to do a review for Rent Live. I was very excited for it, especially since, some of the, like, unlike some of the other musicals that they have done, this is one that I know very well. Rent is one of my favorite musicals of all time. I think it has one of the greatest cast recordings. It has such fantastic characters. So much talent has come from it. And I was really excited to see how it would translate to a major broadcast network like Fox. I was interested in seeing how it was going to turn out. And especially coming off the heels of something like Grease Live, considering that a lot of this cast is actually from, well, two are from Grease Live, I was very excited to see how it was going to be. But of course, what turned into a review is now going to be more of a thoughts video. I am still going to grade it at the end, but it's going to be more just a bunch of jumbled thoughts and things like that. The biggest reason for that being, of course, is because this was not really a live performance. And because of that, I don't really feel like I can review it as a live show, because it wasn't that. Now, I know things happen, and sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches, but in this case, they really didn't. And look, I'm not gonna fault the performers here. I'll get to them in a little bit, but I am solely going to talk about the decisions that were made here, how just not well thought out it was, and how it's just incredibly difficult to review this altogether. I will say, however, I do think the cast that was here, I was actually really looking forward to. I like that a lot of these cast members are not big name actors. The biggest name here is Vanessa Hudgens, which we'll get to her a little bit later. But I like that the majority of the cast was mainly unknowns. It seems like they've really learned to favor talent over recognition, and I'm glad they've been able to do that, because a lot of this cast was very good. Jordan Fisher, I think, carried this entire production. He was really great as Mark. He was very charismatic. He was a lot of fun to watch in the role, and you really did see Mark you really did see him as Mark Cohen, someone who he's just trying to get by. All his friends, they're suffering from these terrible illnesses, and he's just trying to spend as much time as he possibly can. He's trying to savor all those moments, and I think he did a really great job playing the character. I was overall very impressed by him. I think he carried it very well. Vanessa Hudgens as well. I mean, talk about just a performance that came out of nowhere. I knew she'd be great, considering how amazing she was as Rizzo in Grease Live, but I was not expecting her to be one of the standouts, and she came in late, but she completely blew me away. I mean, I really don't like Over the Moon. I don't think it's a very well done performance. I think it's very over the top, but Hudgens made it actually work, and she made it one of the highlights of the entire show, and I was very impressed by what she did here. She was so fun to watch. She easily had the most energy out of everyone, and I really did love her in the show. Brandon Victor Dixon as well also really did impress me here. Loved him in Jesus Christ Superstar last year, and while I don't think this tops that, he definitely had some incredible moments, especially in the reprise of I'll Cover You. He absolutely killed it there. The rest of the cast, on the other hand, is very 50-50 for me. I really liked Kiersey Clemons as Joanne. I feel like Joanne does not get a lot of recognition, and she should, because it is a very hard role to put off. Someone who is a lot more passive and someone who isn't into, the theater stuff that Maureen is, but she really did a great job, I'd say. I was very impressed by her throughout the show. Her and Vanessa Hudgens had some really great chemistry, and I thought out of all the pairings, they were definitely the best. The other two pairings, not so much, especially when it comes to Roger and Mimi. I did not feel these two together. Now, Tinashe, I thought she did the best with what she could. There were definitely points where it felt like she was holding back, which that's more of a performance issue overall. But I thought her overall, performance, in the show, I thought overall she did do a good job. It's just Brennin Hunt, I was not as big as a fan of. Again, it sucks what happens to his foot. I know it is very unfortunate, but accident aside, I really did not think he was all that great here. I thought that he was very stiff. he definitely can sing, and that's great, but acting ability just was not there for me. I did not really buy him in the role of Roger. It seemed like he was just very wooden in the role, and I just did not really feel him in this role at all. The worst easily was Valentina, though. I was not a fan of Valentina at all as Angel. I thought that she, again, her acting I thought was way too over the top, and the singing especially was really not good. I did not think that she could sing. A lot of the points, it was very hard to understand what she was saying. She wasn't on key most of the time, and I just did not buy the chemistry between her and Clemons, and I did not feel like they utilized her very well either. I really did not feel Valentina was all that memorable. Mario was really kind of just there for me. I kept forgetting that Benny was a part of this show, to be honest. I thought his singing ability was great, but acting ability just wasn't really there. And then the ensemble overall, I thought they did the best with what they could, definitely. A lot of them, though, I was really not impressed by. I thought the ensemble was very much lacking. Especially, surprisingly, Keala Settle. I was not a huge fan of her in this. I thought that she was way overused, and I really did not think she was all that great here. The rest of the ensemble just did not seem as into as they could have been, and ultimately, there was just lacking that sense of energy and just that sense of purpose that you want from a show like this, and I just didn't really feel that here. I did not get that sense of urgency from most of the cast here. All right, so that's aside. Let me get into the thing that really does bring this whole production down, of course, and that, like I said, is just the choices that were made here. Now, I know that this is live theater, and, anything can happen, and many circumstances are going to occur, and stuff like Brennin Hunt hurting his foot, that is possible. However, that inadvertently really did take a toll on this entire production, and it sucks, because you could tell that these were actors that definitely did work very hard, and I really do feel bad for them. But the choice to air this as a dress rehearsal, I think was completely the wrong way to go, especially considering this is a live production. I mean, you would think they'd have someone on standby. You would think that they'd think of something like this happening. Hell, let's think back to Grease Live when Vanessa Hudgens' dad died and everyone was speculating whether or not she'd actually perform. Sure, she did, but let's just say, theoretically she didn't. What would happen if she had not performed? Would they have just aired a dress rehearsal? Would they have just not gone on? I mean, these are things that they probably should have thought about, and the fact that they didn't, I think, really did hurt this production overall. As much as I did like a lot of the cast, even people like Jordan Fisher were very much holding back, and that's not really their fault. Like, sure, you could tell they were trying to save their voices for the final performance. However, knowing that they could possibly end up showing this one, I think they should have told them to just give it their all and not hold back. I think back to when I did high school productions, musicals in high school, and they always told us, like, treat every performance like it is your last, and I think they should have given that same, advice to these group of performers, because clearly they were just waiting to, finally just break out at that big moment, and the fact we didn't get to see that is honestly very unfortunate, especially when it comes to the last 15 minutes, which you could tell there was just so much more energy there. This cast was just so much more into it, and I don't think that it was that their acting ability was bad. Like, sure, people like Valentina and things like that, I don't think they would have been that much better than they would have been in the dress rehearsal. I think that pretty much echoes what we would have seen in the actual performance. But in terms of cast overall, I think the energy would have been there a lot more, knowing that this was actually live, and the fact that it wasn't was definitely very sad to see. And look, I understand that Roger, Brennin Hunt was in a wheelchair, and maybe they thought that wouldn't really go with the character, but considering that Roger just kind of like sits around throughout the duration of the performance, I mean, sure, there are parts where he's up and active, but for a lot of it, he's just kind of sitting around. I actually think it would have heightened the performance. I actually think it would have made the performance even stronger if they did that. Have a Roger that's in a wheelchair, that would have really gotten people talking, and the fact that they didn't do that, I think really was a huge mistake. I actually think it would have made this a lot more worthwhile in the end, and I really wish they would have taken that in consideration, because, again, maybe I understand they had very specific choreography and things like that, but not having him, having him in a wheelchair should not deter you from delivering a really great live performance. I think it actually would have enhanced it. However, aside from obviously the big problem with this show, there is still one thing that really did bring this entire thing down for me. That damn audience. Look, I understand that ever since Grease Live, they found that having an audience makes the show feel more energetic and it keeps things moving quicker, and that's great. But this audience clearly did not know what they were watching. They did not know what they signed up for. They, for some reason, thought that this was a concert. And I understand that Jesus Christ Superstar was supposed to be like that, but this was not Rent Live in concert. This was Rent Live. It was supposed to be a production of the show. This is not a time to just scream and wail. I know that there are certain people. I know that Vanessa Hudgens is a very well-known actress. I know that you've seen her in High School Musical, but just calm down. Like, there are moments in the show that are supposed to be very emotional, and when the audience is just screaming and just losing their shit, it's very hard to feel that emotion. I feel like a lot of that emotional impact just was not there because the audience was just so damn loud. This was especially shown during What You Own. I don't know what was going on there. They tried to turn like some sort of like mosh pit. Again, I understand they were doing a concert, like, not on the broadcast, but and I know the audience was really rowdy, but this is literally supposed to be the big moment for Roger and Mark when their arcs are finally closing, and it's supposed to be like the big sort of like 11 o'clock number for them. And when you put this like mosh pit over it, it really lessens a lot of that emotional impact, like a lot of this did. And there were definitely quite a few examples of that, but this was definitely the most blatant for sure. What You Own is one of my favorite songs in the entire show, and I really don't know what they were thinking with that. I understand that, again, the audience is being very loud, but you have to act like the audience isn't there, and them doing that really kind of defeats the purpose of even doing a show like this. And that, combined with the over-reliance on the band, which was way too loud at points, especially during one number. I can't think of which one it was right now, but there was one where it legitimately felt like a demo version. Like, it felt like the demo versions you'd hear on like a soundtrack when they're trying to show you how it originally sounded, because the piano was just that loud that you couldn't hear anything else. It was just this piano just roaring, and everything else was just so much more quiet, and it just did not work at all. I don't know what was really going on there, but that really didn't work. Also, some of the choices they made throughout this production were very odd overall. The turntable during La Vie Boheme was not that bothersome until the very end of the performance, where you see all the performers and, it's like spinning around. It's just very weird to look at. It's not supposed to be staged like that. I did like the idea of what they were trying to accomplish with Will I, where we're kind of seeing all of the various, characters in the show and the illnesses that have befallen them. That was definitely really well done. It just sucked that the sound mixing was so bad because it was very hard to listen to, honestly. Like, I really did like the staging. I liked that we were trying to see it through Mark's point of view, but the sound mixing, something was really off there. Either it was the ensemble was just that bad, or there was just something wrong with the sound mixing. I really couldn't tell. Maybe a combination of both, but that really did not work for me. And of course, the elephant in the room, what the hell did they do to Seasons of Love? I mean, look, I understand they were trying to do something different, but Seasons of Love is the iconic song of this show. It is the One Day More, or the You Can't Stop the Beat of this show. This is the moment where everyone knows what the song is. Even people that don't know Rent, they know what Seasons of Love is, and the fact that they made this given all to minor characters that are not really that important in the story. Sure, there are people who are suffering from AIDS, just completely lessens the impact of what they're trying to do. This is supposed to be the moment where everyone is standing together, talking about, it's supposed to be a sense of community. It's supposed to be that sense of the calm before the storm, so you will. These people know that they are on borrowed time, and they're trying to savor that moment as much as they can. That's why all of them perform that song together. So when you're doing all these like solo lines and things like that, it just really lessens the impact. And look, you can make an argument that, oh, maybe the cast just couldn't hit those high notes, but listen to the version that was released on the soundtrack. Tinashe actually does Keala's solo lines, and she does it effortlessly. I don't know why they couldn't have just done that. I honestly did not get why Keala needed to be here. It felt like they just wanted to include her to capitalize off the success of, like, The Greatest Showman or something. I don't really know why she was here. It was a very bizarre choice overall, and it really did not work. I don't know what they were really thinking there. Other small choices here and there. I did like the set that they had. I thought the set was really colorful and things like that. I definitely did enjoy it. But just overall, this was lacking a lot of the emotional impact that I wanted. It was lacking that sense of energy, and I think they could have done a much better job with that. And then I know this isn't really a huge complaint since they have to do this with virtually every single, like, live performance, but the certain, like, censoring of lyrics and things like that, I understand they need to do it, but some of it was just very bizarre to me. Like, okay, you censor, you censor the word dildos in La Vie Boheme, but you keep the entirety of Contact. That was just very odd to me. I mean, it seems like the stuff that they took out were not nearly as bad as the stuff they left in, and I don't really understand why they need to do that. I know the FCC can be very confusing, but this just did not really make sense to me. In terms of musical performances, again, besides the things that I already touched upon that I thought were just very bizarre, a lot of them just weren't very memorable. Songs like Light My Candle or Santa Fe or things like that, I've just seen performed a lot better. I've seen much more from them, and I just didn't really remember. And honestly, once they were done, I wasn't really thinking about them all that much. The ones that did work very well, I did think were really great. The best one, without a doubt, was the reprise of I'll Cover You. That was absolutely incredible. Brandon Victor Dixon just killed it in that scene, and even if it wasn't a dress rehearsal, you know, even if it was a dress rehearsal, those tears felt real. You could tell that sense of community that those actors had, and I thought that was a really nice moment for everyone. I did like most of La Vie Boheme, minus the turntable. I thought that was a very odd choice. But I thought things like Without You, the whole Goodbye Love sequence, all of that was done really well. There were just many performances that unfortunately did fall flat here. There were a lot of numbers that just did not stick with me, and I think it's just because they've been done a lot better before, and I just did not feel that sense of emotion that I was supposed to here, unfortunately. It was really cool at the end to see the original cast together. That was a great moment, you know, celebrating the 25th anniversary, because that's why they did Rent Live when they did, because it is the 25th anniversary. So that was really great to see. It was a really nice tribute to Jonathan Larson. I especially loved the shot where Brandon Victor Dixon and Jesse L. Martin was next to each other. It was just really nice passing of the torch in that way. Just really great stuff, and a really great way to end a very lackluster broadcast. Ultimately, I think that people should just walk away from this as a learning experience for what not to do if something like this happens in the future. Implementing understudies and, you know, making sure that every performance you have is the best one you can give. Those things are important, and they have never been more important than at this very moment. I think that very much did show here. You could tell that this was a dress rehearsal, the sound mixing and things like that. A lot of that stuff could have been touched upon. Again, because the fact that this is a professional production, those things just stick out even more. I mean, if this was a high school production, okay, I give the benefit of the doubt, but these are things that are very important. These are things that they should have thought of in advance, and the fact that they didn't, I think that's really what brought this entire production down. And I would not be as upset if I didn't know that they hadn't run, you know, a production while this was going on, because there was a production going on. It was more of like a concert thing, but still, you can tell that there was definitely a way for them to do an actual production of this. They could have easily done this live. They just simply chose not to, and I do think it really did hurt things overall. Things just felt weaker. You had actors holding back. You had them not being able to show their, well, except for Vanessa Hudgens, who clearly didn't know that this wasn't, well, she was acting at least like this was a live performance, and she definitely has that down to a science. The other ones, on the other hand, that's something that I think they needed to learn more. I think that's something that the directors should have given them more notes, where they should have said, hey, you know, either deepen the vowels or stretch that out more, or, just give more energy, because that's really what was lacking about this entire thing. It's very hard to review this because it isn't really a live production, thus why this isn't really a review. Like I said, it's more of a thoughts video overall. So at the end of the day, while there are definitely quite a few things I really did like the cast. The soundtrack is still as great as it ever has been. I just really did not feel that sense of impact. I did not feel that emotion that I really wanted to, unfortunately, and it just did not work as well as it could have. The last, I'd say, 15 to 20 minutes did save it overall, but still, it is definitely one of the weaker musicals we've had in quite a long time, and I am going to give Rent Live overall a C. But that's really all I have to say about Rent Live overall. I know this wasn't the review that you were expecting, but again, because of the fact that this wasn't live, I really did not feel like I could accurately review this. I felt like I had to do more of a thoughts video. Let me know what you guys thought about this overall. Just a very bizarre production, honestly. It's really one of those things where there are things that you'd think they would have taken to an account, and the fact that they didn't is just really head-scratching to me. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.